Welcome to the Coriolis Effect with Cory Oliver.
Hi guys, I'm Cory Oliver. Thanks for watching the Coriolis Effect. Please hit the subscribe button below, and we hope you like this episode. Hi guys, we wanted to announce that like many podcasters, we just started a Patreon account. Visit our page at patreon.com/the Coriolis Effect. We have 5 different levels of membership and offer early access to episodes, behind-the-scenes footage, bonus episodes, shoutouts, and much more, including personal phone calls, questions and answer sessions, and live chats with Bob and me. That's patreon.com/the Coriolis Effect. Is a classroom the best way to teach your children to be curious, creative, and entrepreneurial? Of course not. Real learning comes from doing. Welcome to the Children's Business Fair, a one-day event where young people can launch and showcase a business. You'll be amazed by what children can accomplish, and it's a great way to bring your neighborhood to life. Launching a children's business fair is easier than you think and free. We'll even throw in $500 of prize money. Find out more at podcast.childrensbusinessfair.org. We'd like to take a quick break and thank Down to the Wire for sponsoring today's episode. You can find their trio of podcasts, including Down to the Beat and Down to the City Weekly, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But today I want to specifically talk about their Down to the City podcast, which talks about unique local businesses in the city. Also, catch Down to the City's video series where they travel to and showcase local businesses. Their first video episode was of a local tattoo parlor where they got tattoos by the owner who they interviewed. Check that out on their YouTube page, DTTW Entertainment, and visit their website, www.dttwentertainment.com, to learn more about the brand and its podcasts. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Cory.
Irina in the shot?
No, you want to do it again?
Are you sure you're not messing with her?
I'm positive.
I got her back.
She's not in the shot. It doesn't matter. I would edit her out anyway. You're not in the shot, honey.
Okay.
Second.
Hello. Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Cory. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well.
Really?
What's going on today?
Not much. Just feel like it's kind of just a little bit of sauna in here.
It does get hot in here. Story out of Florida.
Okay.
There was a mother and her daughter, and the daughter was running for homecoming queen in the high school. And the mother, who I think was an assistant teacher or an assistant principal or somewhere in the district, and the daughter broke into the emails of people and sent fake votes to get her daughter to become homecoming queen to increase the votes. They got caught, and they're now getting tried for a various bunch of things, like hacking emails and stuff like that. They each face up to 16 years in jail for hacking into emails and doing fake votes for homecoming queen. So I looked it up. In California, if you commit involuntary manslaughter, you kill somebody unintentionally, but it's still manslaughter, maximum 4 years. If you commit voluntary manslaughter, which means you kill somebody but didn't plan it, like 2 days ago, we get into a fight and I just decide to kill you right there, maximum 11 years. These people created false homecoming queen votes, and they're looking at 16 years in jail. Think something's wrong?
Well, I mean, you know what that makes me think.
Don't do it.
Well, it just goes to the whole, again, I don't know. I'm just saying there was a lot of speculation on the voting. And, whoever was behind all of that, if they say what is true, I don't know. Right. I really don't. I'm just saying the news, both CNN, Fox, Newsmax, all of the news outlets talked about our voting in this last election. Right. They all did. And so it just makes you think, like, if in fact that were true, who would be the people that would have to answer for that, and how many years would they be facing?
Not a single day.
Oh.
They haven't prosecuted anybody. Okay, first of all...
No, I know. I'm just saying,
the truth of the matter is,
shouldn't the punishment fit the crime?
Yes. There was fraud in the election. There were dead people who voted.
Oh.
The question is, was it enough to have changed the outcome? And that's what nobody knows, whatever.
Right.
My problem is when people on certain networks say there was zero fraud in the election. Well, no, we know there's some fraud. It may have been 100 votes, it may have been 1,000 votes, it may have been 100,000 votes. We don't know.
By the way,
but
this isn't the first election that there's been fraud.
Yeah, no, there's been fraud in every election, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, but to take the point, because They said there was fraud in the 2016 election
Right.
because they lost. But to say there was zero,
Right.
but anyway.
Wow,
No,
that's pretty harsh. I did not hear that.
I find it very odd in California, and I got to check this, it used to be the law where if you are convicted of spousal abuse, it's a year in jail. Abuse on a dog, 2 years in jail.
Right.
Oh, come on. I mean, I know that dog's a dog, but still. Dog's
Right.
not the almighty.
The value of the life is, I mean,
Yeah.
although, I get it. I
Although-
understand. Speaking of, we have Tinks in here today, your dog.
Yes.
So,
Nah,
so,
that's,
so
you beat
cute.
Tinks, you get 10 years, right, Tinks?
Ah,
There he is.
Tinky. Oh, ho, ho, ho.
All right, who are we talking to today? Sorry, did I catch you drinking?
Sorry, you caught me right in the middle of drinking. This water is like so addictive.
I
It's
know,
so
it is.
good. It tastes so good. I'm not just saying that. Everyone who comes on the show says, "Oh, it's so good," but it actually really is good. Today we
Yes.
have a friend of mine who is just one of the smartest guys I know, and he is a
Second smartest guy, you know.
Right. Sorry, Boobie. Bob. It's kind of a joke between Irina and I. We call her husband, who is in the room, I will say, just off camera. We call him Boobie. It's a
not,
joke.
It's not a joke. That's what she
Oh.
has called me since we met.
Oh. Well,
And
sorry.
then about a year into our relationship, she was still living with her friend Julia, and I had a friend of mine who hangs TVs and sent Pat to their apartment to hang a TV. And a day later, I walk into the locker room, my entire team's there going, "Booby!" I'm like, you never tell the friends what you call somebody when you're alone together, so.
Well, we were yelling it at your concert, but
Yeah,
you just didn't hear
I
us.
hear that.
Anyway, he is a conservative political operative and founder of I know I'm like of his own company, and we'll talk about that. He is just very smart and articulate and has a lot to talk about and a lot of great insight on what's going on in the world today, which, he was introduced to me by a mutual friend of ours, and we're constantly calling him saying, "What do you think? What do you think?" So I just thought it'd be a great time to have him on the show.
Okay.
And we could hopefully get some questions answered and some insight politically.
And
You know.
do you have a name?
Yes, he does.
What is it? Did you say it? I wasn't paying attention.
That's because you're not paying attention.
I honestly zoned out. I can't remember if you said his name or not.
Well, I'll
Did you?
save that. I'll save that.
No, you gotta tell me now. Tell me now. Go on, tell me.
Because
Go on,
right now
tell
I'm
me.
having a hot
Go on,
flash.
tell me.
I'm really
tell me,
having
tell
a
me,
hot
tell me,
flash.
tell me. So what did
Oh.
Irina? Tell me. Go on,
Huh?
tell me. Go on, tell me. Irina likes it when I do this.
She does not. She's going, oh.
His name's George Stephanopoulos. No.
Yeah. Actually, well, let's just save this one for when we actually get them on.
Okay, because anybody who pushed the podcast or saw the YouTube, his name was displayed on the what do you call this, thumbnail, so they already know.
Do you?
Apparently, I'm the only one who doesn't know.
What is his name, Bob?
I know his name.
What is it?
It's funny. I know. No, it's okay. First of all, it's Whitley. It's his last name, but now I'm blanking on his first name. Oh, you know what? It's Jared Whitley.
I cannot.
I can see that because I'm looking at the computer screen. Jared Whitley. Oh, Jared Whitley. I know Jared Whitley. Now, is it Whitley or Whiteley? It's Whitley.
For those of you just turning in, we're really having a moment
You
because
do
it's
that.
only like, I don't know, what you think it's like 75 degrees in
Oh, it's
here?
probably about 85. You say that like people can just tune in. This is not TV. You have to start from the beginning.
I
and go
know, I
forward.
do
You
do that all the time,
You're
but
just
you're
tuning in. Nobody is tuned
dating
in the middle of
myself.
this. Yeah.
Really, you can't tune in the middle?
No. Oh, you can
can't
you can
fast
forward it. Yeah, but
because
who
I'm
does that?
sure they do.
Yeah.
Please.
No, they're just going to stop and go on to another show. But
Anyway, I'm really excited about him because he's helped me along this path and this journey of,
I don't know what the world's coming to.
pandemic. I don't know what the world's coming to. Political craziness. Just he really is good at helping keep perspective and understanding. So I think it's important that we see all sides and we don't just get pigeonholed into one corner. And I'm always open to the right and the left and in between.
I agree. You know what I think's important?
What?
That you actually talk into your mic and not.
Okay. Right here.
It was
you mean?
what you were saying
Come
was
on right
very
here.
interesting.
Was
I
that
just don't
good?
think anybody heard it. I'll have
I'm
to
gonna
boost
say,
this
where
in.
does a mustache? Sorry, I know.
Well, now it's covering your face.
I just can't. How do you make him happy? It's like either or. Okay, Bob.
I don't know, but she does every day. Right,
I know. You two are really cute and you're very inspiring.
Well, thank
It gives me hope. It really does.
and we get to go to Nashville now.
Huh?
And we get to go to Nashville. I always wanted to take our
I
to Nashville.
know. We're going to Nashville. And you're going to karaoke with the gang.
All right, so we're 8 minutes in. Let's save this time and give more time to JARAD Whitley.
I would love to do that. Yes, let's do that.
And I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome, Cory. I got your back.
Thanks. Do you know an extraordinary child, a budding superstar who is ready to take on the world and who loves to have fun? If so, he or she deserves a chance to shine at a children's business fair, a one-day event where young people can launch and showcase a business. You'll be amazed by what children can accomplish, and it's a great way to bring neighbors together amid sunshine and laughter. At a children's business fair, children will make something with their own hands, sell it safely, and experience the freedom of having a little extra spending money as a reward. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply and as little as 3 hours to plan a fair. Just set up a few tables on a lawn and send a few emails to friends and family. You can host a fair for free, and we'll even chip in up to $500 of prize money. Sound too simple? Join parents who want to equip and inspire their children to shine in the real world. Start your audition to host a children's business fair in your community or find out more at podcast.childrensbusinessfair.org.
Hey, let's start the show.
Yes, let's start the show. I'm very excited today. I have a dear friend and a conservative political operative on the line here, which is, we like to include all sides on this show. That's why we call it the Coriolis effect. And right, exactly.
Yes.
And I have JARAD Whitley on the line, and he's going to enlighten us. Yeah, you got to clap there, JARAD.
Oh, thank you. I'm flattered.
And really, I'm impressed. I'm so impressed with him because, I've said this in my little pre-interview earlier with Bob that, I was connected to JARAD through a mutual friend, and her and I often call JARAD for answers and questions, and he's so knowledgeable and so smart, and he worked for the White House for President Bush and the defense industry, right? You graduated from Holt International Business School in Dubai. I want to hear all about that because I've always wanted to go to Dubai. I'd love to know what that's like.
I think you do very well there, Cory.
Really?
Sure.
I don't know. And he worked in D.C. for 11 years in the Senate with Orrin Hatch. So that to me is impressive and in and of itself. I can't wait to talk about all things politics and with you. Politics and pandemics in this episode. But first, we have to have a word of the day for you.
So
word of the day.
we do a word every day. It's a phobia, and we're going to play it. I'm going to spell it. I'm going to see
politics.
if you know what it is.
Okay, lay it on me.
It is.
ALLODOXAPHOBIA.
It's ALLODOXAPHOBIA.
ALLODOXAPHOBIA.
ALLODOXA phobia. ALLODOXAPHOBIA.
Is that the fear of spilling aloe on your documents?
That's such a good. I told you he was smart. That's such a great guess, though.
Yes. Well, JARAD, you don't have this. Cory, you may have this.
Oh.
Take a guess.
Was it along the same lines as what I just guessed?
Sort of.
The fear.
It has to do with politics.
Fear of politicians.
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
It is the fear of other people's opinions.
Oh, wow.
Allodoxaphobia.
That's actually a really good fear word that because that's a real thing, I guess, that when you are afraid of other people's opinions. And today, I'm excited to hear your opinions, JARAD, and not just your opinions.
Thank you. That's flattering.
What you went to school for, obviously.
Right.
Hey, first, give me my pen.
Okay, I have to switch pens. So, JARAD,
Throw it. Thank you.
tell us, we've all been through this roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a pretty insane ride over the last couple years.
Sure. Yes.
Just share with with our audience, your journey, why and how you got into what you do, and your company. You have a company. Let's just learn about JARAD. You always fascinate me because he not only is very, very smart and articulate, he's hilarious.
Wow, thank you.
But first, hey, JARAD, are those your center mass hits on that target?
Center mastheads?
No, the bullet holes on the target, they're all center mass in the center of the body.
Oh, center of mass. I thought you said center mastheads.
No.
Yeah. Well, the objective is to neutralize the hostile, right?
Right.
I did a couple here around the gun area in case you ever wanted to just like neutralize the weapon.
Wow.
And is that one in the eye?
It looks like 3 or 4 in the eye.
All right. Well, good shot.
Oh, thank you. It's easy when they don't move.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, JARAD. Just
Okay.
give us a little background on you, on JARAD.
Okay, so like a life story type of thing?
Well, yeah. You've seen a lot of changes. I want to know why you got into what you got into. What was your driving force? What motivated you? And just talk a little bit about what's going on politically right now, economically, everything.
Okay, so right now, like maybe we'll kind of work backwards or circuitously. We'll go in a circle, either clockwise
Coriolis
or counterclockwise. Exactly. So right now I have my own company, as you mentioned, a political consulting firm called Whitley Political Media, LLC, or for short, I call it Whitleypedia, which usually gets a laugh 25% of the time. I have like
that is a good one.
Thank you. Where I've taken the logo from Wikipedia for the W, so like a Superman type of thing. And technically I stole it from them, but if there's one organization on the planet that can't complain about people stealing, it's Wikipedia, because that's 98% of them. So, and something that is very concerning, given that my livelihood is connected to our political
Is he cutting out?
system. Sorry, please tell me you can hear me.
You're cutting out a little bit, but just go ahead, keep talking.
Okay. So
No, I can't hear him at all.
Oh, bollocks.
So you can't hear him, then that's your earbuds.
So I currently work in politics. I have for most of my adult life. And it's particularly concerning to me to see instabilities in our political system, right? I think it would be ludicrous to say it's not unstable. Like we say, oh, we're more divided than ever. But like that, that's like something from the 90s to say we're divided, right? When the situation is such that there's targeted mass street level political violence across the country, when there's more, the data point that I think is most prevalent is there were more nights in 2020 in Portland where there were riots than nights where there weren't. Right? That's not divided. That's political instability, right? And I think in some ways, a lot of people in Washington are insulated from it. I think in a lot of other ways, though, there's some who are on the front line. The main thing that worries me is I don't think anyone sees a way forward that's functional, right? And for me, a lot of it is like just waking up and saying, okay, what fresh horror is there going to be in my news feed today, right? And so that's very concerning. There are times when I come and said, why didn't I choose anything else as a career, right? The problem is though, right? And so I wonder if some of that is just like a midlife crisis type of thing. But the thing is, if the US political system becomes unstable, that affects everyone on the planet, right? And this is when I was in Dubai, an idiom I learned was, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, right? Because we're so important, because we're 25% of the world's economy, because we're the main source of technological innovation, main source of cultural innovation, as you know, from Hollywood, the center of the number 1 biggest financial market in the world, the NYSE, and the number 2 biggest financial market in the world, the NASDAQ. Anything that happens here is going to affect everyone. And so that's something.
Okay, so let me jump in there for a second, because and I always like taking things to the extreme, the absurd extreme. What happens if you could walk us through? America goes full on socialist. where no private ownership of, business, no private ownership of company. We become Argentina. What happens to the rest of the world?
So if the let's not say Argentina, let's say Venezuela. So about 20 years ago,
yes.
About 20 years ago, that's what happened with the Chavez revolution in Venezuela, the most oil-rich country in the world, right? Like Russia is this big and Venezuela is this big, right? And they have unlimited oil resources. And if you have oil, as the Saudis have proven for the last 45 years, you can get away with anything. So if there was ever a country that could provide for its citizens' needs, it would have been Venezuela, right? But that didn't work. And now they're killing zoo animals to eat because their economy has collapsed. So let's take that and times it by about 1,000. And that's what would happen if that came to the United States.
So do other countries, the United States would, in my opinion, fail. But do other countries fail, or does some other country step up and say, okay, we'll take up the slack? Okay,
so historically, when one great empire falls, another great empire rises, right? So like the Moors were kicked out of Spain in 1491, ending that empire. And in 1492, the Spanish began their expansion into the New World, right? And so something that, I'm not Captain Amazing to say this, but obviously China is chomping at the bit to become the New World superpower. Right. And that is something that should scare everyone. Right. Look at how the Chinese treat their own people.
Yes.
And we want their sphere of influence to become even stronger. And our president says, no, we should welcome a rising China. It's like, oh, really? What do people in Taiwan think about that? What do people in Korea think about that? What do people in Thailand think about that? Do you think there's anyone in Asia who's not like in the central power in Beijing who really wants to see China become the dominant cultural, economic, political, and military force of the 21st century?
Right.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay, so my question is, so if China becomes the dominant country, it replaces the U.S., they're obviously going to put in their sociological policies, all of with their social scores and whatever else, and the world just becomes one huge China.
Yes, it's called New World Order, which is the ultimate goal in China.
And then we go back to 1984.
Right. Well,
sure. Except probably meaner.
Yeah.
Right? Probably. Right? I mean, look at the brutality they visit on people who are working in sweatshops in there. Look at what they're doing to the Uyghurs just 20 miles away from where Disney filmed Mulan, this ultra woke company. Right? It doesn't matter how woke people say they are. As soon as it comes to, well, would you like to make money from China or not? All of their virtue goes out the door.
Well, that's the NBA. The NBA will say anything they want to anybody. And it just came out that their clothing lines and all their brands are being made by literal slaves in concentration camps.
Oh, no. Well, we reject the colonial history of slavery in America. We're okay with it still happening in China. But, it was so awful that it happened here. The first culture to end slavery. That's the American contribution to the history of slavery the last 100,000 years of mankind. It's still going on to this day in other parts of the world.
Yeah, except England stopped slavery before America stopped slavery.
You notice I said culture, not nation. Because there were states that abolished slavery. There were states that abolished slavery before the UK did. I think Massachusetts.
Oh, did they? Okay. All right. Oh, then we win.
So, we were talking to somebody before this, and we had a little bit of this conversation. And this is not like it just all started happening this year during this pandemic. This has been going on.
Certainly not. No. Yeah.
A very, very long time. You've been in politics for how many years now?
15 years. 15 years plus.
15. Right. So how have you seen it change? How have you seen the political climate change from the time you started it to now? What are the main changes you've seen?
So when I first got to Washington, my first week with Senator Hatch was the hearings for Justice Samuel Alito. It was very intense. It was a baptism by fire. In terms of, I had like a day to rest before that happened. And then it was just the senator being in interviews back to back. And while that was hectic, it was perfectly civil. And for me, the event that showed we were past a point of no return as a political system was the Kavanaugh hearings, because the extent to which the Democrats violated our social contract just showed they're not interested in playing this game anymore. I mean, the brutality and the violence that they brought to Capitol Hill during that just showed a complete defiance for how an open democratic society is supposed to function.
And explain what happened for those of people that don't know.
Okay, well, so they had mass protesters, many of them paid, onto the Capitol, not to peacefully protest, but to violently interrupt with the process of appointing a justice who they know they couldn't stop with traditional, with votes, with traditional political means, and who they know is perfectly qualified, right? It's not as though they had appointed Bozo the Clown to be on the Supreme Court or whoever, right? This is a man who has the temperament and experience to do it. The worst thing to me was they doxed my two senators, Senator Hatchin and Senator Lee, which means, of course, to reveal their personal information of where they live, to expose them to violence and harassment and possibly death, right? And the guy who did it, he was like a former congressional staffer who I believe is currently in prison, but there's no way he did that just on his own. He was hired to do that, right? And since then, we've seen just relentless calls for violence by Democrats. Yeah. The worst is your Maxine Waters from California. And then when Republicans try to challenge Democrats to debates, like Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to debate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about the Green New Deal, but that's violence. That's threatening her with violence. And Nancy Pelosi said today, there's no room for that in Congress. Debate. There's no room for debates between two members of Congress.
So that pretty much wipes out our freedom of speech then, I guess, is what they're saying. Yeah.
What it basically is,
I think it's okay to healthy debate. You know, it's okay to hear it. They have debate class in schools and preschool. You debate, right? Okay, so sorry. Back to how you've seen it change.
So to me, those were like the two bookends of my political experience. And the big thing I'd say is when I got to Washington, everybody loved America. Everybody wanted the best thing. The Democrats wanted America to be number one. Wanted the economy to be the best, wanted to be the most wealth in most people's hands, wanted the military to be the strongest it could be. But now they don't. The Democrat Party now hates America. They hate it to its core. They want to destroy it. And the thing it honestly reminds me of is not like any kind of inspired revolution, right? But like the Taliban destroying Buddhist statues, right? Where the attitude was, our corrupt organization cannot create anything of good, so we're going to destroy those things that have been created by better people.
Do you think that the left tears down America because they feel they can hold power longer by doing that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they wouldn't use that kind of rhetoric if they thought it didn't work. The question is like, because and anytime, so like when Obama ran on change, right? President Bush at the time said, of course he's running on change. I've run on change every time I've run for office, except when I was running for re-election, right? So there is the extent to any time you're trying to justify why you should be in power, you're going to want to say, well, whoever's been doing it has been doing it bad, right?
Right.
And there's that quote from Ronald Reagan that gets quoted all the time, where he says, the government is not the problem, the solution, government is the problem. The thing is, people always chop out the first thing that he said, which was, in the current situation, in the current climate, government is the problem, not solution. In which case he was talking about who? Jimmy Carter.
For Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Yeah. So he wasn't saying the government is terrible and should be torn down top to bottom. He was saying Jimmy Carter's bad, you should hire me instead. But now that's not the sentiment. I mean, when they're tearing down statues of Thomas Jefferson, how do you negotiate with these people? Right?
Why would any party, this is a random question, why would any party want to dismantle their own society, the very society that they have to live in?
There's a very famous quote. If you go to the Reagan Museum, when they were dealing with the Cold War, it was one of the higher ups in Russia during the Cold War who said the quote, it does not matter if 3/4 of the world dies as long as the remaining fourth is communist. And that's their theory.
Yeah, there's an absolutism that is deeply seated in bitter tribalistic conflict, which is obviously what we have now. And a huge component of that is the way that wokeness is not a political philosophy, it's a religion, right? It evidences all the signs of a primitive religion, which is why you mentioned freedom of speech. So that's a novel concept. Most religions have this thing called blasphemy laws, where you're not allowed to say what the false priests of that religion say you shouldn't say, right? And so that's what they're trying to institute. And whether they realize it or not, we have the prevailing religious sentiment in Western civilization right now is this godless cult called wokeness, right? The whole concept of intersectionalism is they're trying to set up a caste system, right? Mentioned they have blasphemy laws. They're trying to rewrite history to favor their cult-like sentiment. They don't want anything to exist that they haven't approved or disapproved. And they're more than happy to let, like you say, 75% of the people die if that percentage of the population is not a member of their cult.
And that is 100% straight out of 1984, because the main character's job was to rewrite history.
Yeah. Do you know what the top-selling book on Amazon in 2020 was?
Was it 1984?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's a shame, because I don't know if kids these days have ever read that.
I don't think so.
But they definitely
I doubt
that
it.
and Animal Farm.
I don't think so. I mean, they definitely have the Hunger Games at my daughter's high school, which is, just kids killing kids, but you wouldn't want to educate them on actual political issues, would you?
Well, the thing is, like, the Hunger Game is drenched in, like, a warning about communism. I mean, if you look at the flag of Pan Am, it looks like the communist flag with the red and the yellow. Like, she's clearly warning people, hey, this is what's coming. And the capital is this entitled group of people with massive technological superiority who, out of their cruelty, lord their power over the rest of the country. What does that sound like?
Yeah.
I think, Bob and I were talking about this, and I'll just bring up Hitler for a second, because, this what's going on right now is
the
very
parallels
similar.
are all over the place.
The parallels are all over the place. But this generation doesn't necessarily, and I am guilty of it myself, so I'm not saying anything I'm not guilty of it. We're in this. We're stuck in our social media, our Instagram, our TikTok, all of our social media, that to the point that, you might miss the miracle, you might miss the message. And, I don't know how we get out of this to pay attention to what's going on around us, because if we don't, we are really going to lose our civil liberties. We already are, right? This past year was supposed to be a 2-week break to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
And we're on almost a year and a half. And it's like the insanity is continuing to get worse and worse. I'm not saying that the virus doesn't exist, but tell me what percentage of this virus is, in your humble opinion, and is political?
Okay, well, let me answer your question with the question. How many people do you know personally who have died of COVID?
None for me.
I don't know any.
Okay, so I have one friend whose 80-year-old father died of COVID. So among the three of us, an 80-year-old who I don't know, but I know his daughter, he's died.
Right.
Okay, so then that should answer your question. At least 98% of it is political.
Okay.
I was listening to another podcast. I think Joe Rogan had somebody on who was talking about the testing when they started testing it. And these tests go through cycles, and they ran it up to 40 cycles. And so when you get to 40, 1 part per trillion will set off the test. So if you have one of the coronavirus molecules in it, it sets you off as a positive. And then the rule was, in any state, if you died within 60 days of a positive test, you died falling out of an airplane, it was marked as a COVID death.
Yeah,
so
everybody.
the numbers are
like
just
that.
incredible.
Yeah. The other thing that's come out is the idea, Bill Maher calls it panic porn, where news outlets over the last 15, 20 years have been desperate to try to stay alive because the way the funding model has been disrupted by the internet. And this idea of it bleeds, it leads has always been a concept in for-profit journalism. And nowhere has it been worse in my experience than with COVID, because they know when they talk about COVID, people click on it, right?
Right.
And so they're clearly feeding, there's a vicious cycle where they're feeding the panic over it. They want to put bad numbers up. They want people to be scared. They want people to be stuck at home with their eyes glued to the TV, ordering stuff off the internet rather than going down to the store.
You know, I can always tell too, and I've talked about this, you know, who's watching what station when I drive along the freeway a year and a half into this pandemic, and I see someone with a gas mask and their hand gloves, they're in their car, their windows are rolled up.
All by themselves.
And it breaks my heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really breaks my heart because I really don't even think about the virus at that point. I'm thinking about the mental captivity that they are in from watching this narrative be played out on these news channels. It really does make me, I want to pull them over and say, let me like pray you out of this captivity. It's terrible.
Do you know how no one's ever going to convince you there's no God? You're never going to convince
I
them that there's no
understand.
COVID.
I'm actually not even saying myself that there's no COVID. I believe I had COVID or SARS whenever it was like 9-10 years ago with my daughter, and we were very sick. And since then have been, you know, healthy in our immune systems, which God gave us, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Fought it without any medication. But,
Sure.
you know, this if you don't watch the news, I hate to say that, but you're not, or certain news outlets, you're not going to be living in fear. And fear, you know, you've seen it, Jared. You've seen it on all levels. Tell us what Whitley Political Media does. I want to know all of your resources and what you do.
Oh, okay. So if there, I guess political consultant is what I do. If there are organizations that want insight on how to advance their message, their agenda, then they can hire me and I can help them with that. I'm intentionally obscuring some of the details. But
are these political candidates or companies?
Some of them have been political candidates.
Okay.
It varies. Yeah.
Yeah. I that's how I met you.
You going to help anybody out in the California recall election?
No. Can you actually run for California governor? I would vote for you. You'd
Don't
have
you
my
have to live
vote.
here?
Huh?
You have to live here, don't you?
Yeah, well, come on. Move to California, Jared.
I
You
should.
only need
need someone
90
like you.
signatures, you get on the ballot.
No,
And
California.
4,000. 90 signatures is $4,000.
Corey, you know what I think California needs.
I know. Well, let's not go there. So, and it's very well.
By the way, you know what my
probably
father used to say? The country is tilted and all the loose nuts rolled to California.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. See, the thing is, you mentioned California. Like the amount of power that Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Washington, D.C. have over, and to a lesser extent Boston, have over the rest of the country is just staggering, right? But and it's not new. I mean, like the amount of power that these big cities have had over the rest of us has been around for decades, and in the case of like Boston and New York, for centuries. And so it's no big surprise that there's such a huge cultural divide, because we don't like that they have absolute power over us, and they don't like that we question that they have absolute power over us. That's why Democrats like importing people who don't talk back, if I can say that very bluntly.
Yes. Did you read or listen to news today that Washington, D.C., 76% of the gas stations are out of gas?
76%. I'm not surprised. I had heard about that there were the gas shortages. But you know what? I don't feel bad for them. They voted for it. That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
There's been this legitimate issue about taking care of the environment that has been twisted into part of the woke cult to the point where people aren't even thinking clearly about it anymore. The Democrats have said, yeah, we're going to destroy your energy independence that the president gave you and that this wonderful, richly blessed country can provide. And they said, yep, let's do that. I don't feel bad for them. They deserve it.
And more than 50% of the country voted for him.
What's that?
Well,
more than 50% of the country voted for it.
Yeah, some of the people who voted for him were even alive.
Yeah. Well, I count the dead ones too.
I know. Well, I
mean, Chicago, vote early, vote often.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jared, what are your thoughts on? I mean, listen, we're all kind of we're sequestered into our houses with, masks right now. And we're, you're in Utah, correct? Or somewhere around,
Yes. Yep,
around there on the outskirts. What is the social and political climate there? Because each city I've found, we've asked this question to different people all over the world, and it's different. Like we spoke to someone in London and they said it's literally still on lockdown. We're not on lockdown in LA.
It's not terrible here. The small little urban blue pockets of the state, they try to enforce that out of spite and cruelty because that's what most drives the Democrats at this point. But we went to lunch at a mall today, and we didn't have our masks on at all at any point. And we got there, and none of the staff running the restaurants were wearing masks either. So that was good.
Oh, well, that's actually new. So, because here you still have to wear the mask, but as we were doing our last interview today, a little thing popped up from the CDC, and they said that if you have been vaccinated,
you don't have to.
Now
yeah.
you can take your mask off. And I'm just wondering if you have any insight on whether we are going to have to provide some form of identification stating that we have had the vaccination.
Also, the question is, will the grocery stores and banks let you take your mask off if you're vaccinated? Because right now, it's not the government that's enforcing it so much as it is the corporations enforcing it. The schools are the ones making kids get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts, JARAD, Whitley?
Well, I do believe that a private organization on their property has the right to make expectations, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference between the store saying, if you want to come in here, you have to follow these guidelines, versus the government saying, when you're out in public, you have to follow these guidelines. When you're driving a car by yourself and breathing recycled air that you're the only one who breathed, you don't need to be wearing rubber gloves and 2 masks. That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's not science at all.
Right.
No, I saw a kid jogging on the street 2 days ago. No one was around him, and he's still masked up. He's in his 20s.
Wow.
And you just look at him and go, he watches CNN.
Yeah. Well, and I just found out that, the universities, and my daughter's still out of university her last 6 months, and they are requiring, this vaccination to re-enroll yourself to sit in class.
Which university does she go to?
She goes to one of the schools in San Diego, but
okay. I'm sorry.
The same thing.
They're all doing it. All of the state universities are requiring a vaccination. Right. So, let's talk about the award.
Is there any money to be made in these vaccinations?
They're free. I believe it's free.
I'll tell you what, they just came out. The tests averaged, I think, $120 per test, or $140 per test, and there's been over, I want to say 300 or 400 million tests. Anyway, it's almost like $80 billion in tests.
Can I just say this though? To give away a free vaccination, I don't know. This is just how my mind thinks. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Yeah. But to give away free vaccinations, to me, it would seem like there's a different agenda.
Okay, first of all, there's no such thing as a free vaccination.
There's no such thing. No, okay, so when
somebody's paying for it. The government's paying for it.
No, I know.
No, there's clearly a profit motive.
Right.
If Bill Gates wanted to subsidize this, if he wanted to liquidate 3/4, I'm not to pick on him. If he wanted to liquidate 3/4 of his wealth and he personally pay for every single one, I think he could do that. Right?
I think he just liquidated 3/4 with his divorce.
He just liquidated half his money, Half his money's about to walk out the door.
We'll be happy to talk about that with you on the show.
If he didn't get her to sign the best prenup in human history, he deserved
it. They met when they were young before he had money. There is no prenup.
Didn't you see the documentary on Netflix?
I thought
there may be an anti-nup, but
I don't think he got married to her until well after he'd made his money.
But Jeff, it's going to be on the news. We'll find out.
Yeah. We'll find out. I'll bet that's one record where he hope he doesn't beat Jeff Bezos.
Involuntary manslaughter. You only go 4 years of jail.
Stop. Oh my gosh. What is the award that you won? Tell me about the award you won.
Oh, okay. So there's this local.
Sorry, I'm jumping all over, but I have so much I want to know.
That's okay. This is good. It keeps me on my toes. There's this local political website called Utah Policy, and I wrote some columns for it in 2020. And last weekend, I received an award from the Top of the Rockies competition out of Colorado that recognizes journalism in the Intermountain West in the personal and humor column category.
Very good.
He's very funny. He is very funny. And by the way, he should be a writer. You really should just write like novels, because you are not only funny but entertaining. And I've actually sat down with him at lunch, and he just has me in stitches. So you're very
flattering.
smart.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
No, really, truly. I mean, funny and smart.
The thing that's interesting is, I'm a conservative firebrand, or as fiery as I can be, and journalists are all Democrats. And one of the articles that I put in my portfolio for this was called "Maybe We Shouldn't Be a Country Anymore," and they still said, "Okay, this is good." Like
Bob's going
seriously,
like this.
We're coming up on 250 years, and that's the usual life of a country. So
yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've talked to you about that, haven't I, Cory? About the fate of empires essay. Yeah, I have it all on my other screen right here.
If that's the case, and USA ends, what's the next government? What's the next country? You think it'd be socialist or communist?
We don't really technically exist in Revelations. We don't. If you read Revelations, you'll see that we don't. The United States does not really even exist. But go ahead.
A book written 2,000 years ago.
Well, I'm sorry. I refer to it all the time. It's kind of my Bible. Just saying.
It's kind of your Bible, or isn't it your Bible?
No, it's my actual Bible is my
Bible.
Bible.
Is my Bible.
It's only the document that pulled the human race out of barbarism and into modernity. It's just
right.
Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
Big deal.
Right? It's the #1 book sold of all times.
Well, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, first of all, I've read the Bible. I'm Catholic. I get it's the #1 book of stuff, but it had a 2,000-year head start.
Just saying.
All right, well, just saying.
Anyway, I'm sorry. So you were asking me, what the next government would be. See, the thing is, it depends. Like, there's no way that the government that the Democrats are pushing now could possibly sustain itself, right? The question would be...
How long do you think it could last? If we went full-on socialist, how long before we ran out of money? Or as Margaret Thatcher said, you ran out of other people's money.
Okay, well, the scary part is even if we don't go full-on socialist, we're already well underway, right? I mean, when I first became aware of politics in the 92 presidential election, Ross Perot, he ran on the issue that our debt is $3.5 trillion. That's what we do in a year now, like as an addition to the extra debt that we just take as a normal cost, right? How much has been added? Like the debt doubled under Bush for 43, doubled again under Obama, and I don't think it could. I mean, it probably will by the end, another 8-year period by the end of Biden or Harris, whoever is still serving in 2024. But I think we're just running out of the amount of money that can exist on the planet to have been borrowed.
Do you know an extraordinary child, a budding superstar who is ready to take on the world and who loves to have fun? If so, he or she deserves a chance to shine at a children's business fair, a one-day event where young people can launch and showcase a business. You'll be amazed by what children can accomplish, and it's a great way to bring neighbors together amid sunshine and laughter. At a children's business fair, children will make something with their own hands, sell it safely, and experience the freedom of having a little extra spending money as a reward. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply and as little as 3 hours to plan a fair. Just set up a few tables on a lawn and send a few emails to friends and family. You can host a fair for free, and we'll even chip in up to $500 of prize money. Sound too simple? Join parents who want to equip and inspire their children to shine in the real world. Start your audition to host a children's business fair in your community or find out more at podcast.childrensbusinessfair.org.
Okay, so
right.
let's talk that through. So the way the current administration is running is they're just printing money. And I get it, it'll make the money worth less and everything else, but there's no limit to the amount of money they can print, mainly because they don't even use paper. It's all ones and zeros. So a billion to a trillion to a quadrillion to whatever. Yeah. It's just a number on a computer. And inflation will take off. You'll be Belgium before in the 30s. I mean, they literally had 10 billion% inflation. The money you got in the morning wasn't worth 10 times or 1/10 of what it was worth in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that happens. What do? You go back to a gold standard? Do you go back to a commodity? You got to do something. If the,
a lot of people are
good.
buying gold right now. Gold and silver.
Well, this is the thing. People are sending their money to cryptocurrency, to gold, and to real estate. So the two most reliable stores of wealth on the planet, and then the most speculative one.
Okay, so if you go to real estate and you go to a socialist country, now you can't have private ownership of real estate.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a scary thing to consider, especially with them using language like the ownership of a home, of one family home, is the ultimate expression of white supremacy, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What they're doing is they're ginning people up for asset seizure by the government based on racial means, right?
Right.
Or racial
They did that in
standards,
South Africa, by the way.
They did that in Zimbabwe first, and it collapsed.
Right.
And then now they're doing it in South Africa.
Right. Okay, so my wife is from Ukraine, and she asked me a question. Her father had to sign over the house, or her mother. They've been divorced for a while. And I said, well, who owns the land of the house? And she looked at me like I was crazy. She goes, what do you mean, who owns the land? I said, well, you have who owns the land? She goes, nobody owns the land. The government owns the land. We only own the house on the land. No, you said you can't own land. I'm like, and that's the way that country operates.
Yeah.
So,
see, one advantage.
Go ahead.
One advantage of that kind of thing is if it prevents foreign nationals from buying land, right? That's like a big concern, is the idea of how much of the U.S. or Canada or wherever does China own, right? Like,
that's a very big concern, right?
I don't know if this is true. I'm looking it up right now, but California supposedly just passed a law, under the radar. Again, if you could try to help me look it up right now,
sure.
It's basically, in so many terms, if your home is defaults in foreclosure, bank owned, that California actually has the first right of refusal. In other words, it will not go to auction. It's not public domain. It literally will go to California, so that
That's a new one on me. So if I hold a mortgage
Yes.
on your property
Yes.
and I go to foreclose on the mortgage,
yes,
you're saying I can't bid my foreclosure amount to take over the property?
correct.
That I have to give it to the country? That can't be right.
Well,
I'd have to, only
Really?
because think about it this way. Let's say I'm not a bank, I'm a private person, and I lend you
look it up.
$600,000 for your house, and you don't pay it. That means I can never get my money out of the house.
that's right. You're absolutely right. So that's what I
Now
had
let's
heard.
multiply that times 10,000 what a bank owns, 10,000 lots. I mean, all the mortgage companies would go bankrupt because they could never foreclose on their investment.
Well, no. They can't just swoop in and take it free of charge.
But that's
they have the first right of refusal.
But that's what, so the state can bid.
Correct.
Okay. Well, they would then, if that was true, they would bid the mortgage value or the
Correct.
default.
Correct. But that's also...
And nobody could outbid them, in other words.
Right.
If they
That
wanted it.
means they could... The majority rules on that one, right? And...
Yeah, but then California's got to come up with the money.
Yeah, it's
There's a
first
lot
right
of
of
money in real
refusal
estate.
concept in California. Yeah, it's right there. I guess it was right. They would have to come up with a lot of money, but we do that anyway. We print money here. Do you know that,
Yeah.
Jared?
Well, we don't.
Yeah,
California
we
doesn't
don't.
print money. The federal government
Like,
does.
well, the federal, yes, absolutely.
And we don't have a
So-
mint in our state, do we? Denver, Philadelphia.
Jared, what is our game plan? That's what I'd like to know.
Who
from
is
you.
our?
And your
Who is
You
our?
mean Cory?
no, just this great nation of ours that is
No,
currently under siege by so many different aspects, and we all know what they are. We have all sat at home and received a video, whether it be Republican, Democrat, pandemic. There's so much propaganda out there. We're inundated with it on a daily basis.
Yep.
And really what we're all searching for and are hungry for is we just want the truth. We want to know, a way out. I don't even think, most of the left wants to lose their freedoms. But this is happening at a rapid pace here. And so
Keep in mind, though, the people in the left making the rules do not believe they are subject to the rules.
No,
Look
not
at
at
all
all.
the stuff where they say you can't go anywhere, and then they get on their private jet and fly wherever they want.
I
Yeah.
think there's corruption in all houses of, and all of that going on. And I just feel like, what do we do? What if you were to lay out a plan for us? What would that look like? Where do you start at this point? Because so many things have been dismantled. Where do you start?
Yeah. You see, the thing I posit to you as a conservative is, what are we conserving anymore? Right? So many institutions have been corrupted. So many basic functions of life have been infected with wokeness and undermined. It's like, what is there to conserve, right? Like, there's more of a normalization for young women to have an abortion than to have a baby, right? Which, how is the society survive when that happens, right? What's the end game? Your society dies. So I think there are so many parts of the country that are so far gone that there's nothing left to conserve, right? Like we say, but we'll probably take back the House and the Senate in 2022. And I think that's true. There's no way that Democrats could win in the midterms. I think we're past the point of talking about elections, right? Because these people who Bob talks about, like, who don't want us to have rights, like, they absolutely despise us. They absolutely despise us. I've been working on that piece. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to write it. Which the headline would be, "The cult of woke hates you more than Al Qaeda ever hated you."
Yeah.
Because Al Qaeda, their main thing is they just wanted to be left alone, right? They wanted the U.S. to not have a military presence in Saudi Arabia, things like that. But the cult of woke wants to have absolute power over every aspect of your life and brainwash your children to hate you.
Wow.
Al Qaeda didn't want to do that to you.
No.
They also were pretty far away, so their capacity to hurt us was limited to just one episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that I'm trying to defend Al Qaeda, but I'm just trying to illustrate a point. Like
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like this idea of, we need to compromise and we need to find common ground. How do you find common ground with people who hate you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I know this is why go ahead.
Oh, I mean, if we're so beneath contempt, why will they have that? AOC refuses to even debate her insane schemes with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Then how are we? How are they compromising with us? Right?
Yeah, but I got to think AOC is more of AOC knows that she's not the smartest tool in the shed, so I think AOC doesn't do the. Yeah, because she wouldn't debate Candace. Candace Owen offered a 25,000 debate. AOC knows that she would get killed when she was running the first time. And she got caught saying something stupid about economics. It was like she'd say, "Well, I don't know much about economics, and I don't know." And you're right; she's a social media politician. Yes,
she actually is a perfect face, right? Because whoever the powers who are controlling her, who got her the masters with her on the street, they know exactly how to use her. But I have to figure behind closed doors in meetings, she's not the one in charge of the meetings.
Right.
Just as a person. I mean, we always go back to why we started this show, and that was to bring people together. And I've said this a million times, and a lot of my friends that don't have the same exact belief as me, have, for some reason, they just don't want to talk to me about any of this stuff. And I can love unconditionally through any belief, right? I can. I don't expect other people to feel the same way, but again, I'll go back to my original question because I'm a mom, and I was a helicopter mom, and all I did was for 18 years figure out how to solve problems, right, and fix things and put Band-Aids on wounds, and and that's where my heart is right now. Is how do we even start to fix this? I mean,
It's hard because I had a conversation with somebody I used to work with who's very on the left, and we didn't agree on anything. And he was anything he heard on the news, he took as gospel. And I looked at him and said, "Why are we having these conversations? We don't agree on anything." And he looked at me and said, "Because I'm trying to save you." And he honestly thinks like he is so superior in his thinking that I need saving. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, you're one of the stupidest people I've ever met.
Oh,
how can you say that?
So trying to save someone by force, that's what people say in inquisitions. So I go back to my notion that wokeness is a religion.
Right. Tie the chains around me, throw me in the water, see if I float. If I sink, I'm saved.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we need to be about balkanization every single day. I think anyone who says, no, we need to improve our outreach, or if we form the view and we can reach other people, it's like, no, we're dealing with religious fanatics who despise us and who are incapable of seeing how horrible their policies can be. And already are. I mean, for crying out loud, pick a blue part of the hopelessly blue part of the country. Is that part of the country run well? Right? And of course, the answer is no. If these policies were so amazing, then San Francisco would be a paradise for everyone instead of the city on the planet with both the most billionaires and the most homeless people per capita.
There was a great conversation about 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and it was a left versus a right about California, and the guy on the left said, if we're so bad, how come California is the 7th largest economy in the world? And the guy on the right said, because 20 years ago, we were the 5th.
That's a good comeback. Yeah, my response to that would be, well, America is the #1 economy in the world, so that must mean America's perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
I don't know. We still haven't had a solution here. I'm like,
well, if he gets a solution, you elect him president.
I know. Listen, Jared, I just need you to come here to California. I'll get you the 90 signatures. Can you just come
okay,
by?
Thank you. I'll do what I can. Just
let's say he votes in as governor. What's he going to do in California? He doesn't like the state.
He's just, he'd have my vote.
You know what you do, Jared? The first thing you do when you get elected governor of California, sell it back to Mexico.
Oh, that's...
That would solve the immigration problems. It would solve the left versus right problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do me a favor. Give us 20 minutes notice so we can go to Nevada or the next state over.
No. We keep your part. We carve a little bit out.
Yeah, keep LA.
Yeah. No, nobody wants LA.
We were talking about.
Oh, okay. So I'm not joking. I think the only viable political solution is balkanization.
Is what?
Balkanization.
I'm not hearing you. Say it again.
Hello? My name is Jared. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So balkanization, that's a word that
balkanization. Yes.
To know,
yes.
Right? There is absolutely no way forward. Like Washington, D.C., 95% of them voted against Trump, right? And the 5% that voted for him probably worked for him. So that city is entirely on the other side, right?
And will be forever.
And will be forever.
Do you think there's even anyone in the White House right now working? I feel like it's literally become Fort Knox.
Yeah, there's all the people making the decisions for the country.
I think the janitor goes to work every day. I think the chef goes to work every day. But I think Biden gets in his 15 minutes work and he goes back and sits by the fire and puts his blanket on.
Saying, I'm the president. What do you think? And I say this as a joke, but what do you think about dividing the country in half, making one blue country, one red country, and
They've talked about that.
We mutually agree on a to defend each other in case of war or stuff, but have a East United States and a West United States.
See, the thing is, I don't think
California.
I don't think that's exactly how it would work. I would think if you and look, some balkanization models I've looked at, they've said, there's not 2 different Americas, there's like 11 different Americas, especially once you start factoring in the other 2 countries in North America, right? I mean, if you look along the border, they have made America Mexico again, right? So would they want to be their own country? Would they want to just say, hey, you took Texas from us 150 years ago, now we've taken a third of it back, right? Is that what it would look at? If you look at the middle part of Canada, like just north of Montana, North Dakota, whatever, that part of the country, I think, would have more in common with, say, politics in Utah than they do with politics in Ottawa, right? But by the same token, I think Vancouver would rather maybe be affiliated with Seattle and Portland and just down the coast. So these are some of the different models that people have considered. I don't know if any of them are politically viable. And I think we've only redrawn state borders once. After the Civil War, we carved West Virginia out of Virginia. And so I'm certainly not advocating like a full-scale civil war. I think that would be terrible and horrible. But I don't see any way that kind of thing couldn't happen until it was after there had been some sort of conflict. And from the Democrats' perspective, they've already won. They've corrupted every single institution to their side. They don't need to compromise with us.
Right.
And which is why it's so horrifying to me when you talk to anyone conservative and they don't recognize it, right? Or they think that there's some organic political means to solving this. I mean, when Joe Biden says no amendment to the Constitution is sacrosanct, like, so these things that are there to preserve our freedom, you're going to get rid of them, but somehow we're the fascists.
I had a meme on that. It was no amendment is absolute, and then behind it was like the 13th, the 22nd, the 15th. All the biggies. The first, the 6th. So in our 230 years of history, we've had exactly one amendment repealed. Right.
Mm-hmm. And that was the one.
And that's the 21st got rid of 22nd got rid of the 18th. What got rid of the 18th or 19th? 22 and 19, right? Was prohibition. 19 and 22. I think it was 20, 21 and 19. 19 was women's suffrage. Anyway, but every amendment has been there to secure freedoms for the people from the government, except one. And that's the one we got rid of, right? So that's the model I think we should use, not according to the modern Democrat socialists. But there's one that was never passed. I think the Equal Rights Amendment was voted on by the government, but the states never ratified it.
Yeah, it was never passed.
I was at a store the other day and my mask was on, but it was like covering just like right here. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to leave. And it was in the Palisades. And I said, well, I'll just put my mask up. And the young girl behind the counter literally said to me, once the guy walked away, she said, No, I actually said to her, you guys we all need to speak up because we're losing our civil liberties.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, but doesn't the government, it was the interesting question. She said, doesn't the government work for us? And she was legitimately asking this question. And she was probably like 17 or 18. And I thought, she's questioning it, which I loved. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like rhetorical in her own mind because she was like, wait, doesn't it?
Supposed to.
Supposed to. And
by the way, that's the real fight. If you have a Senate, because a lot of the times when these bills come up and he's saying a senator votes against what his people in the state want because he personally wants no, you're there to vote the people of the state.
Yeah.
You're not to vote your conscience.
See, the thing, I'm a little bit divided on that because we have to trust in Republican government that the people we elect and their staff are experts and that they probably understand things a little bit better than we do. And we just check in on them every 2 or 4 or 6 years, right? On most issues, because we aren't subject matter experts on foreign policy and monetary policy and some of these more complicated things. But for example, in my state of Utah, I know people are very upset with Mitt Romney for having voted his conscience to impeach an innocent man who had not committed high crimes and misdemeanors. Trump is guilty of one crime, and that's of being obnoxious, right? But that is not an
impeachable offense. 2 crimes. He beat Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney didn't like having to go hat in hand.
Yeah, see, and Brother Romney is someone who's been a multi-millionaire since his 20s, and he's never lost. He's always been the smartest guy in the room, the richest guy in the room, the tallest guy in the room. And he loses to Obama, and then a guy who he considers morally inferior to him comes and wins 4 years later, and the cognitive dissonance has just fractulated his brain. He doesn't know.
Let me ask you a question. Romney's not from Utah, right?
No, I think he's originally from Michigan, isn't he?
Yeah, so I don't like this. I'm going to run. Maybe I'll just move to a state where I go, you should have to grow up in the state that you represent because you should be a part of that state.
See, I've reached the point where I think in order to vote here, you need to have lived a certain number of years too, right? Like the big problem in Western states is they've historically all been conservative, so they've been well run. So we have all these refugees from California who come here, and they don't have to wait in order to vote before they start ruining our state like they ruined California, right?
I agree. You know what? So if you move from California to Utah, you still get to vote in California for the next 5 years. You just don't get to vote in Utah until you've put in the time there and learn. Because you're right, they'll turn the state blue.
It should be 6 years. Yeah, you should
I
have
agree.
to. You should have to appreciate.
Look how many
why we do
people
things.
moved to Georgia when the Senate runoffs were happening.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Did you completely switching gears because we have like a limited amount of time, and I really want to touch on Dubai for a minute.
Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah, because you went to Holt International Business School in Dubai. Tell me a little bit about what that was like and what their cultural climate is over there and economical climate. I mean, they're thriving, right?
Yeah. In some ways, their salad days were right before like 2000 to 2007. That's when they were best there. And then in some ways, they've never recovered from the financial crisis. You would drive by like construction of apartment buildings that were just skeletons that had been sitting there for 8 years or however long, which was kind of weird. So I went there for my MBA. Pardon? What's that, Cory?
I said, which is us now.
Yeah.
No, all of the high rises have stopped downtown, but go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You mean in Southern California? So I went there for business school. I was there 2016 to 2017. So I was there a couple weeks right before Trump got reelected. And this was a very educational experience for me to see the way different people from different parts of the world reacted to that. And the general rule was the closer someone's home country was to somewhere dangerous, the more grateful they were that Trump got reelected. And the safer the war where they were, the more they clutched their tongues. So like the Western Europeans and the Canadians were all, oh, how could you Americans do this? You terrible Americans. But like I had a friend who had a roommate from Azerbaijan. And he's like, yeah, that's great. We love Trump, right? Because Azerbaijan would probably prefer to be invaded by Russia again, right? And they know if there's a strong person in the White House, that won't happen. The most incredible thing is I was in a cafe in Abu Dhabi shortly before I came home. And the Syrian guy looks at me and he says, American, did you vote for Trump or Clinton? I didn't know what the right answer was. I said, well, I've been a Republican, so I didn't like Hillary Clinton. I figured that was safe. And he said to me, this Muslim guy with this big beard, he said, if I had an American passport, I would have flown home to vote for Trump. Obama was liberal hypocrite and he ruined my country. Yeah, because Obama intervened in Libya and the Libyan civil war, picked the wrong side, and they gave birth to ISIS. And they destroyed this man's country, right? Obama's foreign policy was a disaster. And the thing, I was very skeptical of Trump. I didn't think he was serious in his candidacy at all. I remember in 2015 walking home from seeing the fireworks in the Lincoln Memorial, 4th of July, and my friends asking me about, because they know I was more political, what do you think about Trump? I remember saying, oh, he's just doing it to get attention. He's going to go to the Iowa caucuses. He's going to go to the New Hampshire primaries. He's going to drop out. He's going to start a new reality show. I was convinced it was just that. But then being abroad for a quarter of his administration, I am stunned at how good his foreign policy was, because he projected American strength in a way that needed to be done, but he did not misuse that strength, right? So we have as his foreign policy record, he finally stood up to China, right? And for the first person in Washington 20 years to do that, he finally told our NATO allies, hey, you need to pay your fair share. You're not doing that. The only other member of NATO that had been paying their fair share was Greece, because Greece would prefer not to get invaded by Turkey again. So they're pretty cool with supporting this international organization. Everyone else has been coasting. And they're still not paying their fair share, but they increased the amount they're paying. He brokered 4 peace deals between Arab countries and Israel. 4, including the Muslim country that I used to live in. Now look at what's happening, right?
It's just unreal. It's so sad.
We're still in the White House. It wouldn't be happening.
It's tragic.
Anyway, those are the big ones. It's stupid and it's pointless, and there is nothing to be gained by the world having a weak America. There's nothing to be gained at all.
Being divided. Yeah, there's not. You're absolutely right. But they started it slowly. It's a slow burn. We know that.
See, and yes, it's a slow burn. A lot of it, I think, is also. You had the question.
No, what is it also? My question was benign and silly.
Oh, okay. I think it's just also symptomatic of the 250 years that Bob mentioned, that just like every person is born and lives and dies, So does every empire. The question is not if the American empire can endure forever. The question is what will come after, right? Because the Roman Empire had its time in the sun, but Italy still exists, right? So the question is what will come after this, and who will be on top, and how much of our traditional Enlightenment era liberties will we still be able to have in whatever the next form of government is. So I remember reading a comment on a YouTube video once. I don't even remember what the video was. And the guy said, we need to stop pretending we can land the plane and start preparing for what happens when it crashes. Right? And this is not tinfoil prepper conspiracy theory. Let's all move to North Dakota stuff and just buy land and guns and spam. Like I said earlier, our debt situation is so bad, and gold. Our debt situation is so bad that it can't be sustained, right? So that is a ticking time bomb that is going to blow up the whole world. And
there used to be a test when they had the mental asylums, and they wanted to see if a patient was ready to leave the mental asylum because he or she was cured. They would put him in a room with a leaky faucet and a mop, and they would say, "Go do what you have to do." And most of the things, guys would just start using the mop. If you didn't turn off the faucet first, they said you're not ready to leave the mental assignment. So if you went in there and turned off the faucet and then started mopping up, that's fine. But that's our country.
We need to turn off
We're
the
mopping
faucet.
so much, we're not turning off the darn faucet.
Yeah. Wow. So it's pretty much the inmates are running the asylum. I have a silly little thing that I have to interject right now, and that is
did you want to
I'm giving this
more?
stress away. Yes. Well, what? I have a couple more questions about Dubai, but right now, because I'm giving away this dress.
Okay.
It is one of 5 dresses that I wore on Beverly Hills Pawn.
Okay.
And so I'm asking you, we ask all of our guests, I just need one word from you that people can drop in the comments below. And then we will enter that code word in your email or your likeness in a hat, and we're going to do a drawing at some point, and then you'll get this dress
If you win.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So what is a word from
Now,
you?
Jared, you can't win. You're just going to give us the word.
Right.
Just being able to see the dress on Cory means I get to win.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I was flirting with you.
But we do need an actual word.
Sure. So this is like to entice people to stay till the end of the podcast is the idea.
Sort of.
And then they learn the word and they can like enter a raffle.
Yes.
Okay. The word is foliage.
Foliage.
Got it.
Okay, the word is foliage. Drop that in the comments below, and you are entered into the drawing for this dress.
Very good.
Back to Dubai, and then I have a couple more questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. But how you were there for 2 years? You said
just 1 year.
Just
That's
1
one
year.
reason I picked the program because it was so fast. I wish I'd finished that, or I would like to have done that and then worked there for a year because that would have been a good experience.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What you left there immediately after?
Well, yeah, I stayed like a month after graduation, and then I came home for personal reasons.
Okay. And if you were to, be offered a job there again, would you go?
Yeah, probably. There are
You enjoyed it?
the world where I'd rather live. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was a very good
Okay,
experience.
Jared,
It's a
what would your
wonderful
dream
way.
job be? Sorry.
What would my dream job be? I really enjoy what I do now, being able to be part of our political process. I would like to have this job, but with more confidence and stability that everyone was still invested in the same social contract.
And you know what? That's fair enough. Bob's going like this. Yes.
Bob's shaking his head up and down.
That's fair enough. That's why I keep asking,
Right.
how do we get back to that? Because,
No, we can't.
Yes,
we can't.
we've already talked about
They don't want it. They don't want it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
You
okay,
probably
so,
wanted
no,
something
it's okay.
benign.
You what?
No,
You
that was a
probably
perfect
wanted
answer.
something benign.
No, I think that was a perfect answer. I think we can collectively, especially on the, us three, agree on that, and here's the thing. I have a child. Bob has 2 kids, and it's, this is the first time in my history where I've seen anything like this. And I think it's very sad and scary, and I'm very sad about it. But I think about my daughter's generation and her kids and the future and what that looks like. And going into it, this divided is not healthy. It's just not healthy. And we don't really have any sort of outlet that we can turn on and go, okay, I used to, when I was a kid, turn on the news and go, okay, I actually believed what was being said, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, having said that, we have a couple questions. These are silly little questions, but I want to thank you for your time, because I always enjoy my conversations with you. And tell me 3 words that best describe you. I have to read this on the wall because I always get it wrong, and Bob's like always yelling at me.
3 words that best describe me, like I'm trying to give you my elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I need to prepare that in my talking points. Well, right now, a word that describes me is I am anxious, because our situation is difficult, as we've been discussing for the last hour and a half. I think normally I try to be humorous, right? I think humor is very important. I hope so. I think I'm very loyal to people. I hope that I'm loyal to friends and loved ones.
That's 3.
And I think sometimes also that's 3? Oh, okay, great. I don't need any more.
The 4th one is, and I can't count.
Yeah, exactly. Enumerate.
Math challenge.
And then the last question is, we just ask these last 2 questions to everybody on the show. And who is your celebrity crush?
Don't feel like you have to pick Cory.
Yeah, don't feel obligated. No.
Oh.
You don't have to say my name, Cory.
At any
I'm not a celebrity.
Oh, well, you have an IMDb page. That's one I have. Celebrity crush. Well, I think I'm genetically obligated to say Lindsay Sterling, but I have crushes on other people too.
Who? Alicia who?
Lindsay Sterling.
Lindsay Sterling.
Oh.
The violin player.
Silverstone. How did I get that? Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. I don't play any musical instruments. Oh, violin player. Here we go.
I'm trying to think which one it is.
Okay, that's good. Right. JARAD Whitley, the founder of Whitley Political Media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where can we find you? Where can we get a hold of you?
Oh, you just go to my website, whitleypedia.com, if you want to do that. I don't have a particularly
Whitleypedia.com.
I don't have a particularly active social media presence because I consider it toxic. I can't imagine whatever the human race looks like 100 years from now that they'll look back at social media and say, that was a great idea that they did that.
It's true. That is true.
It's so true. And, somebody said to me years ago that your Facebook page will be your resume at some point. And I was like, please. My resume is archaic. It's on a piece of paper,
My resume is my MySpace page.
Exactly. But you know what?
Yes.
It's these companies nowadays, when they hire you, they want to see what
they
your
do look you up
numbers
on
are.
Facebook. Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah.
Like I've auditioned, and I'll lose to the person that has 3 million as opposed to the.
No, see, but that makes sense from their standpoint because
it's mainly because you're doing the marketing for them.
Yeah,
exactly. They're trying to hire your followers. So that element of it makes sense. I went through, I had this extension on my Google Chrome, and I went through and I deleted everything I posted on Facebook.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Right? How about that? I don't think I've posted on Facebook in forever. Yeah. And mainly because they've censored everything. I'm just done with them, and I feel bad about that. And Mark, if you want to give me a call, we can talk about this more on the phone.
They listen to this show, we'll get a few fact checks.
We have people who are in charge of our lives who think they can steer the destiny of the human race, who can't run San Francisco.
Yes.
Yep.
With unlimited money, they cannot run one little city where everybody is on the same side politically. They can't make that work there. but they, in their arrogance and in their bigotry, think they can rule over everybody's lives. And other countries, even those that were not fans of Trump's, have all been uniformly critical of social media for pushing him off their platforms, because their attitude is, if they could do it to him, what can they do to us?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Like in India, the headline I saw was, they said if an employee of Twitter or whatever in India interferes with our election, we will send you to jail for 7 years. I have to figure that would be an unpleasant 7 years.
Yeah. No, if you last it.
But if really everybody just realized, if we just realized that we actually lived a great life prior to social media, we don't need them, they need us. So, it's just, there just has to be a movement though. But I digress. That's for another show. JARAD, I can't thank you enough for today.
You're right. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I hope I was coherent and it was useful to people.
You are.
Very,
I
very
love
good
you.
show.
Thank you. It's very good and very informative. And as always, I always enjoy talking to you. So we'll have to do this again.
I hope so.
And we're out.
Are you ready to hear children laughing and playing outside again? Childrensbusinessfair.org is too. That's why they need your help to launch a children's business fair in your neighborhood. It's easier than you think. If you or your children will invite some friends and provide a safe place to showcase 5 or more booths, they'll provide the rest and up to $500 in prize money. It's a gift and celebration of the curiosity and drive of young entrepreneurs all around the world. Start your audition to host a fair in your community or find out more at podcast.childrensbusinessfair.org. Hi guys, I'm Cory Oliver and thank you for watching The Coriolis Effect. We hope you enjoyed the previous episode. Here are some more episodes you might enjoy. Hit the subscribe button below and have a great day.